Okay, great. Well, now that we've gotten caught up by Dom and Caitlin on these two papers looking at American RGL balls and Texan vertisols, we can go on to talking about some of their similarities and differences in research methods and what that means for the applicability of their findings. So first off, we've got a pretty glaring difference in scope. The RGL ball study was able to look at a good patch in the Midwest, the PNW, and the little blip in Texas and California, anywhere where RGL balls were present in America, while the Texan vertisol study was specifically looking for an Udic soil moisture regime, which they were able to find on the Gulf of Mexico in southeast Texas on the Lake Charles Formation. And these scopes are due to variations in the specificity of the research question, as well as just the difficulties in obtaining data. And that's inherently tied to the differences in their research methods. So the survey methods employed in the RGL ball study allowed them to use this sort of synthesis approach. So they were able to just use NRCS database information to compile a lot of data throughout the country into one theory on RGL ball genesis, while the vertisol study, it was super localized, and they wanted to look at pedogenesis with this particular set of environmental conditions. So they described themselves as a multifaceted approach, where they dug their own pits, allowing them to get a lot more detailed with the pits they did look at. They were able to look at the microtopography, the micromorphology. They were able to do mass balancing, which is basically a counting of materials, and just a much deeper characterization of that particular soil. So these two methods were both in the name of genesis theory. So another big similarity between the two is that researching soil genesis is just sort of a nebulous thing. There's no golden egg telling us that these processes develop the soil to be what it is today. So we undergo this circular process of asking questions about particular soil processes, observing them, maybe not experimentally, but in the field, and then analyzing that data, and just doing it all over again. So here we see these two researchers are looking at very specific questions within soil. So we're looking at this kind of peculiar RGL ball formation, as well as vertisols and these moist soil moisture regimes. So that allows us to add on to existing information and ask our own questions that have not been thoroughly explored in the data. So both these studies are looking at what's out there already, what they can add on, and how it fits in with the broader discussion. But their own limitations are dependent on the scope of the data. So we look at a North American study maybe with the RGL balls compared to this super localized Lake Charles Formation. So both of them have valid findings for the genesis of RGL balls and vertisols, but the extension of that information is maybe limited to varying degrees. So to wrap this up, researching soil genesis is not the easiest thing. We're not going to find hard data. We're going to find information that supports or goes against dominant theories like we've seen today, whether it be perturbation or the soil mechanics model. These are just our current ideas that we agree with, and the growing information will either support or deny our intuition. And that's because the findings are pretty fluid and the data is limited in application. So that means that these specific conditions, the genesis might be these things, but if we move over one state, go to a different country, even in the same soil type, the genesis might be different in some ways. But due to that variation, we are allowed a lot of different methods of exploring these genesis theories, and we can rest assured knowing that more data continue to appear and the genesis theories will only continue to get better. Thanks.